Welcome to today's devotional message under the banner of Trusting God Always. You prayed, you fasted, you waited, and still, silence. Maybe this message is the sign you didn't know you needed. You sit by the window, tracing patterns on the cool glass. The world outside keeps spinning, a dizzying blur of motion and noise, indifferent to the stillness within you. Inside, there's a quiet ache, a heavy silence that presses in like the twilight gathering beyond the pain. You've been waiting for an answer that feels like it will shatter the quiet, a sign that points the way forward, a breakthrough that shifts the immovable mountain before you. You've been waiting for the prayer, whispered into the deepest corners of the night, to finally echo back with a resounding yes, or even just a clear, gentle not yet. But right now, the silence feels less like a sacred pause and more like a vast, empty space where doubt breeds like a persistent weed. It feels like abandonment. Has God forgotten your name? The details of your plea, the weary weight you carry? Did you miss a step? Take a wrong turn somewhere along the way? Is this struggle, this prolonged season of in-between, a consequence, a punishment, or just nothing? Just wasted time slipping through your fingers like sand. You look down at your hands, resting still in your lap, the weariness etched not just in your posture, but deep within your bones, and wonder if this quiet waiting is all there is? Maybe you've whispered, "God, where are you?" So many times the words feel thin and fragile, barely stirring the air around you. This space of waiting, this seemingly endless season of quiet, can feel like a wilderness, vast, disorienting, and challenging. Like the ancient Israelites wandering for 40 years, eyes fixed on the promised land, yet facing only sand, sky, and the echo of their own questions. It is precisely in these moments, when the path is unclear and the heavens seem brass, that doubt can creep in like a cold, suffocating fog, whispering corrosive questions about His presence, His power, His unwavering love. It tells you you are alone, overlooked, insignificant. But even in the deepest silence, even when the answer feels miles away, carried on a wind you cannot feel, there is a truth echoing from eternity, a promise etched into the very fabric of existence. He is not absent. He is profoundly, intricately, abidingly present. This message isn't just a collection of words. It's an invitation, a gentle beckoning to find Him here, in the quiet, in the waiting, in the very heart of the uncertainty. It's a divine assurance that this season, no matter how long its shadows stretch or how difficult the terrain, holds His divine purpose. A purpose often woven in the stillness, and His abiding presence, specially crafted for you, uniquely suited to strengthen you for what is to come. He is near, not because you feel Him, but because He promised to be. He works, not always in the noise, but often in the quiet, unseen depths. Sometimes, the loudest answer God gives is the profound gift of His silent presence. Sometimes, the greatest strength is found not in striving, but in the quiet courage to wait. If these words meet you right where you are, like, share, and subscribe. It helps us reach more souls who need God's comfort. Comment below with your favorite Bible promise or the one you're still holding on to in the waiting. Let's begin, and let His word breathe new life into yours. You sit in the silence, wondering if your prayer was even heard. The wind taps the window. Like God's whisper, waiting for your stillness. You look for grand signs, for parting seas or voices from the clouds, but perhaps God is speaking in the almost imperceptible shift of light, in the stubborn persistence of hope within your weary heart, in the quiet strength you find to face another day. The wilderness feels vast, yes, but it is also the place where God met the Israelites with daily bread from heaven, where he showed Elijah his presence, not in the earthquake or fire, but in a gentle whisper. Your waiting is not empty. It is a space being filled by something you cannot yet see, roots growing deep in the unseen ground, resilience being forged in the quiet fire of perseverance, faith being refined like gold in the crucible of uncertainty. This season is not a pause in your journey. It is the journey itself. It is where character is built, where dependence on God moves from a theory to a lived reality. It is where you learn that His presence is not contingent on your circumstances changing, but is the very source of strength to endure the circumstances. He is not delayed. He is deliberate. His timing is not a reflection of your worthiness or the urgency of your need, but of His perfect plan, unfolding in ways you cannot possibly grasp from your limited vantage point. The silence you perceive is not His absence, but perhaps the sound of Him working in ways that require your stillness to be heard. It is the sound of grace being extended in the quiet moments, of peace being poured into the anxious spaces, of unseen foundations being laid for future breakthroughs. Trust the quiet work of God. Trust that even when you cannot see His hand, you can trust His heart. Trust that the one who began a good work in you is faithful to complete it, even if the process feels agonizingly slow. Your story is not finished. It is simply being written in the quiet places by the hand of a loving author who specializes in turning barren landscapes into fertile ground for miracles. He is with you, here, now, in the stillness. You open your Bible, fingers tracing the worn pages, seeking comfort you know is hidden within. You search for direction, a clear sign, anything to cut through the fog of the present moment. Your eyes land on verses, familiar, beloved verses that speak of God's faithfulness that endures through all generations, His promises that are yes and amen, His perfect timing that orchestrates the cosmos. You read them aloud, perhaps, letting the sound fill the quiet room. But today, the words feel distant, echoes in an empty hall. They don't immediately soothe the ache settling deep in your chest, the persistent tension coiled in your shoulders that tightens with every passing hour. You remember past answers to prayer, vivid, undeniable moments when God moved mountains on your behalf, when the impossible became His playground. You cling to those memories now, not as sweet nostalgia, but as life rafts in this current storm of waiting. They are proof of His power, His willingness to act. Yet the current situation, the one you're currently waiting on, the one that occupies your thoughts during the day and whispers fears into the night, it feels different. It feels stubborn, resistant to the faith you try desperately to muster, impervious to the fragile hope you hold on to. It's like a wilderness you can't navigate, a desert thirst you can't quench. This specific longing, this unmet desire, feels like a tangible weight you carry everywhere you go. It sits beside you in silent rooms, walks with you down busy streets, lies awake with you in the darkness. You pray about it. Oh, how you pray. You talk to trusted friends, sharing the burden, seeking wisdom. You try to have faith, to believe with all your might, to stand firm on the promises. But some days, the sheer weight of it just feels too heavy, too crushing. The fear of disappointment, the anxiety of the unknown, the doubt that perhaps God won't move this time. These are real fears that press in. Yet, it is precisely in this space, this aching, uncertain space between the promise you read and the fulfillment you long for, that the most profound spiritual work happens. This is the sacred crucible of faith. It's where God isn't just answering a request. He is inviting you deeper into relationship. It's where He gently, persistently invites you to look beyond the immediate circumstance, beyond the visible lack, and anchor your hope not just in what He does, but in who He is. He is the author, even when the chapter is unfinished. He is the sustainer, even when strength feels gone. He is the lover of your soul, even when His voice seems silent. Sometimes the greatest answer to prayer is not a change in circumstance, but a change in you, a deeper trust forged in the waiting. The waiting isn't empty time, it's holy ground. Welcome to today's devotional message from Trusting God Always. There are moments in the quiet hum of life, aren't there? Times when the world outside dims, and the only sound is the echo of your own heart, beating against the silence. You sit there, maybe on the edge of a bed, staring out a window, or perhaps just lost in thought during a commute. And the question hangs in the air, heavy and unspoken. Did He hear me? You prayed, you fasted, you waited. You laid it all bare, the raw hopes, the desperate needs, the whispered pleas you barely dared voice, even to yourself. You felt the conviction, the surge of faith, when you first spoke those words into the spiritual air. You envisioned the answer, pictured the breakthrough, saw the mountain moving exactly where you asked it to go. Your spirit was ready, poised for the divine intervention you were certain was coming. And still, silence. Or perhaps worse than silence, a different kind of noise. The sound of doors closing, the unexpected turn of events that took you further away from your desired outcome, the sudden storm clouds gathering over what felt like a clear sky just moments before, the wilderness opening up before you, vast and daunting, when you were sure you were headed for the promised land. Maybe this message is the sign you didn't know you needed. Maybe this is the gentle whisper breaking through the static, assuring you that you are not forgotten, not unheard, not unseen. Your waiting is not in vain. Your struggle is not a sign of His absence, but often of His deeper work. In these spaces of uncertainty, where the ground feels shaky beneath your feet and the path ahead is shrouded in mist, faith is not the absence of doubt, but the choice to trust anyway. It is clinging to the anchor when the waves are high, even when you can't see the shore. It is the quiet conviction that the one who stills the storm also walks with you through it. He is holding the lamp that will light the next step, even if you can't see around the bend. Life, in its raw, unfiltered reality, often presents us with landscapes we didn't anticipate. Moments of anxiety clawing at our peace, losses that leave gaping holes in our souls, the sting of rejection when we offered our truest selves, the weary drag of waiting, when every fiber of our being yearns for movement. These are the crucible moments where our faith is tested, refined, and given the opportunity to deepen roots we didn't know it had. We are called not just to believe in God, but to trust Him in the light and especially in the dark, to trust His character, His goodness, His promises, even when our circumstances scream a different story. This journey of faith is less about having all the answers and more about knowing the one who holds them. It's a beautiful, challenging paradox, finding strength not in your own grip, but in the power of letting go and being held by Him. If these words meet you right where you are, if they resonate with the ache in your soul or the questions in your mind, like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps us reach more souls who need God's comfort, His hope, and the simple yet profound truth of trusting Him always. Comment below with your favorite Bible promise or the one you're still holding on to in the waiting. Sharing your anchor might just be the life raft someone else needs to see. Let's begin, and let His Word breathe new life into yours. Perhaps you had a plan, a meticulously crafted timeline laid out in your mind, or maybe even on paper. You pictured exactly how this season would unfold, how God would step into the narrative, how the scattered pieces of your situation would click together with divine precision, forming the beautiful mosaic you envisioned. Your faith felt strong, not just hopeful, but certain, built on the bedrock of His past faithfulness and the promises you held dear. But now, looking around, the landscape is entirely different. His path for you seems to be taking a detour you absolutely did not expect, leading you through terrain you never planned for, never even considered. The scenery is unfamiliar, challenging, perhaps even a little frightening. It feels profoundly like He's using a different map, one you can't fully see, whose scale you can't read, whose destination seems obscured and confusing from your current vantage point. You followed the compass directions you thought were right, but the terrain doesn't match the mental image you held. This questioning of God's map is not a failing of faith. It is a profoundly natural human response to uncertainty and the shattering of our carefully constructed expectations. We are wired to crave control, to desire predictability, to need a clear route marker leading to a known, safe destination. We want to navigate with confidence, knowing where we are and exactly where we're going. But faith, true, deepening faith, often calls us to walk a path deliberately obscured by fog, where the next step is all we can see. If even that, we are asked to trust the hand that holds the map, even when we cannot read the intricate details, when the landmarks are foreign and the journey feels long. The insight whispered in these moments of navigational confusion is surrender. It is not just surrendering the desired outcome, releasing your tight grip on how things should be. It is a deeper, more challenging surrender, surrendering your timeline and your method to His infinite wisdom. It is the quiet acknowledgement that His ways are higher than your ways, His thoughts beyond your thoughts, and His map is drawn with an eternal perspective you simply don't possess. You might be standing in the wilderness, feeling lost and questioning every turn, but perhaps this wilderness is the only place where certain lessons can be learned, where deeper trust can be forged, where true dependence takes root. He is not lost. He is leading. He is not unsure. He is shaping. Maybe you begged for clarity on the path ahead, for the fog to lift, for the full map to be unrolled before you, and instead, God gave you peace in the confusion. That was His answer. He's not asking for you to muster superhuman strength to forge a new trail. He's asking for surrender, the gentle, radical act of yielding your will, your fears, your cherished plans to His perfect love and sovereign plan. It is in this yielding, in the quiet admission that His map is better, that you find a freedom the need for control could never provide. Rest here, in the unknown, trusting the one who knows the way. And so we come to the close of our time together, but not the end of the journey. The path of trusting God always is not a sprint to a finish line we can see, but a continuous walk, step by step, heart leaning into the faithfulness of the one leading. It is a timeless truth, echoed through generations and across every human story. God's love is not conditional on our circumstances. His faithfulness is not swayed by our doubts. And His presence is as real in the shadowed valley as it is on the sunlit peak. To walk in trust, not sight, is to embrace the divine paradox that true security is found not in knowing the future, but in knowing the author of the future. It is understanding that the moments of questioning His map, the detours and unexpected terrain, are not errors in His design, but often the very means by which He conforms us more closely to His image, deepening our dependence and revealing His character in ways we could never experience on the straight, easy path we initially desired. These hidden seasons, the quiet struggles and unseen battles fought in the trenches of our hearts, are not wasted time. God is meticulously turning these moments, these experiences of uncertainty and surrender, into holy stories. Stories of resilience forged in trial, of hope rekindled in despair, of faith blooming in barren ground. Your story, in His hands, is being woven into a tapestry far more beautiful and complex than you could have ever designed. They didn't see the end of the Red Sea crossing, the wilderness wandering, the long wait for the Messiah, or the 3 days in the tomb. But they trusted the author of their faith, and that was enough. The waiting isn't passive. It has a cost. You feel it in the tight knot in your stomach as another month turns over on the calendar. You see it etched in the subtle lines around your eyes, from nights spent wrestling with what if and why not. This isn't just passing time. It's an expenditure of your most precious resources. Energy, peace of mind. Sometimes even relationships strain under the weight of your unspoken anxiety. You navigate the uncertainty like a ship without a rudder, tossed by waves of doubt and fear, perpetually scanning the horizon for a sign that never seems to appear. You look around and see others moving forward. Friends celebrating milestones, colleagues achieving promotions, family members receiving the answers you've prayed for years to hear. A quiet, insidious envy can sometimes prick at your heart, a sharp, uncomfortable sensation you quickly try to push down. Why them and not me? The question echoes in the hollow spaces of your soul. Is there something wrong with my faith? Did I miss a step? Am I not worthy? These thoughts are like relentless drops of water, slowly eroding the bedrock of your spirit, making the waiting feel less like a pause and more like a slow, painful disintegration. This weariness is real. It's not a failure of faith to feel the ache of unanswered prayer or the exhaustion of prolonged uncertainty. It's part of the human journey through the wilderness seasons. But the spiritual insight here is recognizing that this very weariness is also an invitation. It's a call to lean deeper, not into your own diminishing reserves, but into the only source of sustainable strength, the one who never slumbers nor sleeps. The cost of delay isn't meant to break you. It's a refining fire, designed to humble you, yes, but also to strip away layers of self-reliance you didn't even know were there. It's meant to press you closer to the heart of the one who promises rest for the weary soul. Not just after the waiting, but in the midst of it. The drought reveals the depth of the hidden spring within Him. This emptiness you feel, it is the space God is clearing to fill with Himself, in ways your fullness never could have accommodated. The struggle isn't the end. It is the unexpected path to his peace. Maybe he's not asking for more effort, but for quiet surrender in the eye of the storm. Years crawl by. Not just days, but seasons stacking into decades, each one whispering the same unanswered question into the stillness. You sit in the quiet of your own waiting room, and the air feels heavy with the dust of fading hopes. Was the promise real? Or did you just misunderstand? Think of Abraham and Sarah, a name whispered across millennia, a story etched into the bedrock of faith. God gave them an incredible promise, descendants as numerous as the stars scattered across the desert sky, a legacy that would bless the entire world. Imagine the sheer wonder, the breathtaking scope of that vision. But then reality set in. Years passed, decades. The sun rose and set, painting the sand in endless cycles of gold and shadow, and still nothing. Sarah grew old. Her youth, her strength, the very possibility of motherhood withered with time. Well past childbearing age, the promise began to feel less like a divine declaration and more like a cruel jest. The gap between the glorious vision and their stark human reality became an agonizing chasm. How do you hold on to faith when your body, the very earth beneath your feet, screams the opposite? Doubt, like a persistent desert wind, must have chafed at their hearts. Their story isn't just about the passive act of waiting. It's about the fierce, often clumsy struggle to believe when belief makes no earthly sense. Their human attempt to help God's plan along, taking Hagar, highlights the desperation that gnaws at us when God's timing feels painfully slow. It's a raw, vulnerable moment in their journey, showing that even giants of faith wrestle with impatience and the urge to seize control. This detour brought complication, pain, and a deep understanding that our solutions often create bigger problems. But eventually, in God's perfect, non-linear timing, the impossible happened. The barren womb stirred, life blossomed against all biological logic, and Isaac was born, a name that means "he laughs," perhaps echoing God's own amusement at human limitation, or the pure joy that erupts when his power shatters the boundaries we thought were fixed. The insight here is profound, almost paradoxical. God's timing isn't bound by biological clocks or logical possibilities. His power is revealed most gloriously not in the fertile fields of human capability, but in the barren, impossible places where human ability ends. It is often in our absolute weakness that his strength shines brightest. This ancient story reaches across the centuries to touch you right now in your own season of waiting. Where are you? Perhaps unknowingly, limiting God's promise by your current reality. Are you whispering, "That could never happen," or "It's too late for me"? Can you trust him to do the impossible, even now, when your circumstances scream that the door is closed? Can you surrender the timeline and trust the timekeeper? You sit in the silence, the waiting stretching out before you like an endless, barren road. You've tried to do right. You've held on to hope. Yet here you are, in a place you never expected, feeling unseen, overlooked, maybe even betrayed by circumstances or the actions of others. It's the quiet ache of being forgotten, a small, insistent voice asking, "Did God hear? Does he even see me here?" Consider the story of Joseph, a young man bathed in the light of prophetic dreams. Visions of leadership, of family bowing low, high promises cast against the morning sky. But the road from that dream to its dazzling fulfillment was not paved with sunshine. It was a descent into darkness. His own brothers, bound by envy, tore him from his father's love, threw him into a desolate pit, and sold him into the cruel anonymity of slavery. From a beloved son to chattel, his world shattered in an instant. Yet the path grew even steeper. In Egypt, though he rose through integrity and faithfulness in Potiphar's house, doing what was right led him not to reward, but to ruin. Falsely accused, he was cast into a dungeon. Years unfolded within those cold stone walls. He interpreted dreams for fellow prisoners, one of whom promised to remember him upon release. But promises from men can be fragile things, easily forgotten in the clamor of freedom. Joseph remained in the prison, another layer of injustice, another season of waiting, feeling potentially more buried than ever before. His was a long, painful detour through betrayal, hardship, and the crushing weight of being forgotten. But here's the quiet, powerful truth that whispers through Joseph's long night. God was with him, even in the pit, even in the slave market, especially in the prison. God didn't cause the evil acts of his brothers or Potiphar's wife, but he was weaving his purpose through them. The spiritual insight is profound and counterintuitive. God uses the pit and the prison not as punishment, but as preparation. This confined space, this season of being hidden away, was the refining fire for his character. It was the classroom where he learned absolute dependence on God alone. It was the very positioning he needed, learning the language, understanding the culture, gaining the skills within Egypt's systems that would later allow him to step into the immense purpose God had ordained. It is a gentle paradox. Sometimes the lowest place is the foundation for the highest calling. Sometimes being brought low is the very path to being elevated. Your waiting season, that place where you feel buried or forgotten, where the injustice stings and the road seems endless, might just be God's preparation ground for you. He sees you. He is with you. He is working, not just in the dramatic rescue, though that comes, but in the quiet shaping of your soul, in the strengthening of your dependence, in the unseen positioning for what is to come. Even when you feel most unseen by the world, you are most seen by the one who holds your future in his hands. He is not asking you to understand the entire blueprint, only to trust the architect who is faithfully building something beautiful, even in the dark. Will you dare to believe that this difficult place is not the end, but the necessary preparation? The calendar pages turn, but the landscape of your life looks stubbornly the same. You stare at the quiet, the stillness, the lack of outward movement, and the question presses heavy in your chest. Is anything happening at all? You've prayed with tears, spoken your deepest longings into the silence, surrendered the outcome 100 times. Yet the mountain hasn't moved. The door hasn't opened. The healing hasn't come. It feels like a barren season, a time when God seems distant, his work perhaps paused, or worse, non-existent in your specific situation. The waiting itself becomes a heavy cloak, damp with doubt and impatience. This feeling of stagnation, of being stuck in a spiritual or practical holding pattern, is a wilderness many walk through. It's where anxiety takes root, whispering lies about being forgotten, about prayers hitting a ceiling. You feel unproductive, perhaps even a failure, Because the visible signs of progress are absent, like a seed buried deep under winter ground. You see no sprout, no green shoot reaching for the sun. On the surface, there is only soil, cold and unyielding. It's easy to believe nothing is alive down there, that the potential is decaying instead of developing. This perceived inactivity becomes a breeding ground for fear. Fear that the future you long for is slipping away. Fear that your faith was misplaced. Fear that God's promises are not for you. But the profound, often unseen truth is this: what feels like nothing happening is often exactly where God is most active. Just like that seed underground, you see no growth on the surface, feel no upward pull, but beneath the soil, in the darkness and the damp, roots are forming, reaching deep, anchoring the future plant. Strength is gathering, not for immediate display, but for sustained endurance. Life is stirring in the seemingly inert darkness, preparing for the breakthrough you long to see. Your waiting isn't empty. It's often a season of profound, hidden growth. God is working in ways you cannot possibly see, orchestrating details you aren't aware of, moving pieces on a cosmic chessboard, preparing things that need to be ready, perhaps in you, perhaps in the circumstances surrounding your need. Think of the quiet work of a sculptor, chipping away, revealing form from stone that looked solid and unchanging from the outside. Or the deep, unseen currents of a river, powerful and moving even when the surface appears calm. This hidden activity isn't a delay, it's a divine process of preparation. The insight here is critical. Your character is being shaped, your faith deepened, your dependence refined in these unseen spaces. The impatient edges of your soul are being smoothed. The tendency to rely on your own strength is being gently, or sometimes forcefully, surrendered. Your faith is being stretched from believing when you see to trusting because He promised, even when everything looks contrary. This season is not about external validation. It's about internal fortification. It's a time when the roots of your trust in God burrow deeper, making you resilient for the harvest that is to come. You are learning the difference between God's timing and your timeline, finding quiet strength in the forced stillness. It's a gentle paradox. You move forward most profoundly by simply standing still in His presence. Instead of focusing on the lack of outward movement, on the barrenness you perceive, lean into this truth. Acknowledge the ache of the waiting, the fear that whispers you're stuck. Then, in that vulnerable space, invite God in. Ask Him to show you or help you trust the inward work He's doing. Pray not just for the circumstance to change, but for your heart to be pliable clay in His hands during this hidden season. Trust that the gardener knows exactly what the seed needs underground. Trust that the sculptor is not finished. Trust that the silence is not absence, but the sound of divine creation happening just beneath the surface of what you can see. This hidden season is not a punishment. It is a privilege, a sacred space where God prepares you for the visible glory He intends to reveal. You sit in the silence, wondering if your prayer was even heard. The wind taps the window, like God's whisper waiting for your stillness. But still, the answer feels distant, the path unclear. This waiting, it's not just a pause, is it? It's something else. It feels less like stillness and more like heat. Intense, uncomfortable heat. Like being put through the fire. This fire reveals things you didn't know were there. Impatience, sharp and biting, rises to the surface. Fear, cold and heavy, settles in your chest. Doubt, insidious and whispering, questions every step you thought was led. Self-reliance, that old, comfortable cloak, feels tattered and thin under the pressure. It's uncomfortable, even painful. The old ways, the old reactions are exposed in the intense light of delayed answers. But this is the refiner's fire. It is not meant to destroy you, beloved, but to purify you. Like gold in intense heat, the impurities rise, not to condemn the gold, but so they can be skimmed away, leaving behind something rarer, purer, stronger. This process burns away what isn't essential: the hurried plans, the need for control, the faith that rests only on visible evidence. It leaves behind a faith that is deeper, more resilient, anchored not in circumstance, but in the character of the one who holds the flames. The spiritual insight here is profound. God uses the pressure and heat of waiting, of unanswered prayer, of difficult seasons, to reveal areas in your heart that desperately need His touch. It's in the long stretches of silence that you discover how much you relied on noise. It's in the moments of discomfort that you learn the depth of His comfort. This fire strengthens your spiritual muscles, refining your trust, preparing you, expanding your capacity for the blessings He will pour out when His time comes. He is not cruel, He is refining. The discomfort is the process of becoming more like Him. He is watching. The refiner never leaves the gold unattended in the fire. He knows the exact temperature needed, the precise moment to remove it. He has a purpose for every flame, every wave of heat that washes over your soul in this waiting season. It is in the heat that you learn surrender is not defeat, but deep, unwavering victory. It is in the refining that you find the truest freedom. Endure the heat. The fire is not the end. It is the purification that prepares you for the glory ahead. Trust the refiner's hand, even when the flames feel hottest. You look around, and it feels like everyone else is growing, blooming, reaching for the sun. Their prayers seem answered in vibrant color, their paths unfolding with clear direction. But for you, you sit in the quiet soil of waiting. Days bleed into weeks, weeks into months, maybe even years, and it feels less like growth and more like stillness. You feel unseen, perhaps even forgotten in this hidden place. There's a fear that whispers, maybe nothing is happening. Maybe God isn't working. Maybe you're just stuck. This isn't the dramatic mountain peak you prayed for, nor the rushing river of breakthrough. This is the quiet ground, the unyielding earth. You sit in the silence, wondering if your prayer was even heard. The wind taps the window, like God's whisper waiting for your stillness. It's in these seasons, when the surface seems dormant, that God is often doing His most vital work. Think of a mighty oak tree. To the casual observer, especially in its early years or during dormant seasons, its progress above ground might seem incredibly slow, almost imperceptible, compared to the rapid ascent of weeds or wildflowers around it. But beneath the surface, where no one sees, where the light doesn't penetrate, its roots are pushing down with quiet determination. They spread wide, navigating obstacles, seeking water, anchoring the tree against future storms, securing its lifeblood. This seemingly slow growth above is a testament to the furious, vital, unseen activity happening below. Your waiting season might very well be this kind of root-building season. It doesn't feel like progress because the progress isn't visible to the eye. maybe not even to your own searching heart. But God might be establishing a deeper foundation of faith in you right now, a faith that isn't shaken by circumstance, a resilience that doesn't crumble under pressure, a trust that doesn't waver when the answer is delayed. He isn't just preparing the blessing for you. He is preparing you for the blessing. He's building strength where it truly matters, beneath the surface of what's visible, in the hidden chambers of your soul, in the quiet perseverance of your spirit. This hidden work is crucial. The spiritual insight is profound. The longer and stronger these roots are driven into the fertile ground of God's promises, the more stable you will be when the breakthrough finally comes. The more anchored you are in His truth, the more you'll be able to handle the weight and responsibility of the blessing He intends to give. Imagine a tiny sapling trying to hold up the massive canopy of a mature oak. It's impossible. The waiting isn't a delay of the promise. It's the necessary making of the vessel strong enough to contain it. God is not neglecting you. He is investing in you, building subterranean fortresses of character and conviction that no surface storm can dismantle. Perhaps you have begged for quick answers, a swift resolution to your struggle, a clear sign. But instead, you have been given patience, perseverance, and a deeper dependence on Him with each passing day. That was His answer, an answer not to your problem, but for your soul's eternal stability. Sometimes, the greatest progress happens when you feel you're making none. This is one of life's gentle, poetic paradoxes. That stillness can be the most active form of preparation. That weakness can be the invitation for divine strength to become your anchor. That waiting isn't empty time, but a full process of becoming. This unseen process addresses your real-world fears. The anxiety that you're wasting time, the doubt that God sees you, the fear that you aren't strong enough for what's ahead. God is showing you that He sees the subterranean work, and it is vital. He is proving that your worth isn't measured by external achievements, but by the internal architecture of your trust in Him. He is not asking for strength you don't have. Just surrender to the process He is orchestrating deep within you. The reflection for your heart today. Trust that even in the stillness, God is fortifying your foundation. The waiting is not passive, it is productive. The hidden season is not meaningless, it is foundational. The perceived slowness is the deep, steady work of the master gardener tending to the roots of your soul. Lean into this truth. Allow Him to drive your roots deeper into the knowledge of His unwavering love and faithfulness. Your strength for tomorrow is being built in the hiddenness of today. Do not despise the small beginnings, especially those happening beneath the surface. This season is not a sign of God's absence, but proof of His intricate, patient presence, preparing you for a future that needs the kind of deep roots that can only be grown in the quiet earth of trust. You sit on the worn edge of the sofa, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the room, mirroring the length of time you feel you've been waiting. It wasn't supposed to take this long. The prayer felt so clear, the need so urgent. You've replayed the conversation, the promises whispered years ago, the hopes you held so tightly. Now, they feel fragile, like dried leaves, ready to crumble at the slightest touch. Doubt, a sly serpent, coils around your heart, whispering questions. Did God hear? Did you misunderstand? Is His timing just cruel? The weight presses in, a heavy cloak on weary shoulders. It's easy, isn't it, to fixate on the thing you're waiting for. The breakthrough, the healing, the job, the relationship, the answer. The destination becomes an obsession, a shimmering mirage in the distance that pulls your gaze so fiercely you miss everything else. You strain your eyes, trying to see the end of the road, the moment the struggle finally breaks. And in that straining, you lose sight of the one walking beside you. Within the dust and the heat of the journey itself, you are so focused on what is missing that you overlook who is present. This season of waiting, though it feels like barren ground, holds an invitation. It is not empty time. It is not God's absence. It is, in fact, a sacred space, a divine pause designed not primarily to bring you to something, but to bring you closer to someone. Think of the disciples after Jesus ascended. They were given a promise. The Holy Spirit would come, but they had to wait. They gathered in an upper room, not twiddling their thumbs, but in prayer, in unity, in intense, focused anticipation of God Himself. The waiting wasn't a void. It was a crucible of preparation, a time where their faith was honed, their bonds strengthened, their hearts made ready for the fullness of His presence. Perhaps the greatest gift of this waiting season is not the answer you crave, but a deeper, more profound intimacy with God, right here, right now. He is not a destination at the end of your suffering. He is the road you walk, the air you breathe, the quiet strength beneath your collapsing knees. While you are looking desperately for the signpost marking the finish line, He is holding your hand in the wilderness. This is a gentle paradox of faith. The season that feels most devoid of Him can become the one where you know Him most intimately. He is found not just in the arrival, but in the longing that precedes it. Your fears are real. The anxiety about the future, the sting of past rejection, the crushing weight of uncertainty, these are heavy stones you carry. But God's promise isn't just about removing the stones. It's about becoming your strength to carry them. Or better yet, Him carrying them for you. His presence doesn't always change the circumstance immediately, but it absolutely changes you within the circumstance. He is the peace that guards your heart even when the storm rages outside your window. He is the calm assurance that anchors your soul when the waves of doubt crash against you. Shift your focus. It's not about ignoring the pain or pretending the wait is easy. It's about acknowledging the pain while simultaneously looking for the divine companion sharing it with you. He is intimately present within your waiting. He is not distant, observing your struggle from afar. He is in the quiet ache of your heart, the unanswered question echoing in the silence, the flickering candle of hope that refuses to go out. He is your companion, your strength when yours is depleted, your peace in the midst of discomfort. So here is the quiet call, the invitation breathed into the space of your waiting. Ask God to open your eyes. Pray for the spiritual sight to perceive His presence, to feel His closeness, even when the external circumstances haven't shifted an inch. Look for Him in the small mercies, the unexpected moments of peace, the quiet assurance that whispers, "I am with you." He is closer than you think, nearer than your waiting feels. He is not waiting at the end for you to finally arrive. He is here, walking with you, redeeming every step, every tear, every moment of faithful endurance. Trusting God always means trusting Him not just for the future answer, but for His present companionship. He is here. Let Him be enough, even in the wait. You sit in the silence, checking the clock, checking your phone, checking the horizon for a sign. You prayed. You poured out your heart. You perhaps even fasted, dedicating that hunger to a deeper yearning for God's answer. And still, silence. Still no change. Still the same mountain looming, the same door closed, the same ache unresolved. It's in this space, this often frustrating stillness, that the truest nature of trust is revealed, and the deceptive myth about waiting on God is finally laid bare. Waiting on God is not about passively doing nothing. It is perhaps the most active posture of the heart and spirit you can assume. It is a profound exercise in applied faith. Imagine the farmer after planting seeds in the cold, barren earth. He doesn't sit idle, simply hoping for sunshine. No, he works. He prepares the soil. He tends the land. He guards against frost and pests, all while the life he trusts in is utterly hidden beneath the ground. He is actively waiting for spring, trusting that the hidden process is underway and the promised harvest will come in its season. That is what it means to actively wait on God. It means trusting Him enough to stay faithful in the quiet season. It means continuing to obey His known commands even when the path ahead seems unclear. It means keeping the line of prayer open, pouring out your heart and listening, even when the heavens feel like brass. It means keeping the lamp of belief trimmed and burning, even when the night seems long and the promised dawn delayed. This steadfastness isn't inaction. It is holy perseverance. It is spiritual muscle being built in the unseen gym of your soul. Active waiting means aligning your will with His, seeking His face not just for answers, but for Himself, cultivating a deeper intimacy in the quiet. It means serving where you are, using the gifts and opportunities in your hand today, refusing to let the uncertainty of tomorrow paralyze the purpose of this moment. It is cultivating hope, not a flimsy optimism, but a rock-solid assurance rooted in God's character and His unfailing promises, believing He is good and He is working, even behind the veil of your present circumstances. This waiting is an exercise in discipline, a proving ground for your faith's resilience. The powerful, liberating insight here is this: your faith isn't measured by the speed of God's answer, but by your steadfastness in the waiting itself. It's easy to trust when you see progress. The test is trusting when everything feels still or even regressing. Don't let the waiting paralyze you, convincing you to stop praying, stop believing, stop obeying. Instead, let this season propel you deeper. Let it drive you further into the arms of prayer, grounding you more firmly in the truth of His Word, refining your trust to its purest form. The stillness is not an end. Often, it is the sacred space where God prepares the most profound beginnings. Keep waiting, keep trusting, keep actively tending the field of your heart. The calendar sits on your desk, a silent judge of progress, or lack thereof. You circled the date. You pictured the scene, the age you'd be, the season of life you expected to inhabit, the specific sequence of events unfolding just as you meticulously planned. Perhaps it was a relationship milestone, a career breakthrough, a healing you believed would arrive by a certain day. You held on to that date, that age, that season, like a lifeline in the unpredictable waters of life. But the date came and went. The expected season shifted into something else. And the anxiety, a cold whisper, asks, "Why not yet?" This is where the most profound struggle often lies, surrendering our timeline to God's. It's not just trusting that He will act, but trusting when He will act. It's letting go of the steering wheel, not just for the destination, but for the entire route and the schedule. Your heart aches with the delay, perhaps even feels forgotten, lost in the long wait between your circled date and God's unseen clock. You feel the pressure of the world's expectations, the quiet shame of plans that didn't materialize on schedule. This feeling of being behind can be a heavy cloak suffocating faith. Think of Peter in the storm. The waves were crashing, the boat was filling, and Jesus was nowhere in sight. Peter didn't just need rescue, he needed it immediately. He expected his Savior to appear and calm the storm then. But Jesus didn't come in the timing Peter expected. He came walking on the water in the darkest hour of the fourth watch, when their strength was gone and their hope was fading. It was in that moment of desperate waiting, where the human timeline had run out, that Jesus arrived, not just to save them, but to reveal a new dimension of His power and test Peter's faith in a way he never could have imagined from the shore. God's timing is rarely convenient for our human calendars, but it is never arbitrary. It is perfect. It is woven into a divine tapestry so vast, considering factors you can't possibly see, the growth needed in your soul, the timing required for others, the unfolding of His larger, magnificent plan that stretches far beyond your immediate horizon. His delays are not denials. They are often divine setups for a greater revelation of His glory and faithfulness. Surrendering your timeline is one of the deepest forms of worship, a profound act of trust that acknowledges His infinite wisdom utterly surpasses your limited perspective. It's where you find that sometimes the fastest way forward is to stand completely still in expectant faith. This is where God's promise to work all things for good meets your fear of falling behind. Look honestly at the dates you've circled, the ages you've set, the sequence of events you've decreed in your heart. Where are you clinging to your calendar more tightly than you are clinging to His unchanging promise? Can you, in a quiet act of profound trust, release that detailed timeline into His hands? It feels counterintuitive, doesn't it? To gain control by letting go? But freedom often blossoms in the very soil of surrender. Imagine releasing that burden, lifting the weight of your self-imposed schedule, and resting in the peace that His timing, though often mysterious, is always perfect, always strategic, and always working for your ultimate good and His glory. Can you release your calendar into His hands? You sit in the quiet ache of the waiting, the silence amplifying the questions swirling within. The future stretches out like a desert road, shimmering with uncertainty, and the promise you're holding on to feels fragile, worn thin by the days that have blurred into weeks, months, perhaps even years. Doubt, a subtle, persistent whisper, begins to suggest that maybe, just maybe, this time is different. Maybe God has forgotten. Maybe the promise was misunderstood. But when the waiting feels like an endless night, turn your gaze backward. Look not at the vast darkness ahead, but at the lamps God has already lit behind you on the path. Remember the times your own strength failed, the walls seemed insurmountable, and yet He made a way. Recall the prayers whispered in desperation that somehow found their answer in ways you couldn't have orchestrated. Think of the doors that opened unexpectedly, the provision that appeared when the cupboard was bare, the peace that settled when your heart was a storm. These weren't coincidences. They were divine interventions. These memories are more than just nostalgic glances at the past. They are anchors forged in faithfulness, designed to hold your soul steady in the present storm. Like Samuel, who set up a stone and called it Ebenezer, saying, "Thus far the Lord has helped us." 1 Samuel 7:12. Your past experiences of His help are your personal Ebenezer stones. They are visible, undeniable testimonies to His consistent character. They stand as silent witnesses against the lies of doubt and fear. The profound insight here is simple yet revolutionary. The God who was faithful then, who delivered you from that previous valley, who guided you through that past wilderness, is the exact same God who walks with you now. His character hasn't changed. His power hasn't diminished. His love hasn't waned. His track record with you is perfect. He has never left you truly stranded. He has always provided what was needed, even if it wasn't precisely what you asked for, or delivered on your timeline. Recount His past mercies. Speak them aloud if you can. Let the weight of His past faithfulness land on your spirit. Feel the gratitude rise for what He has already done, for the battles He has fought for you, the healing He has brought, the grace He has extended. Let that gratitude become the fuel for your trust in what He will do in His perfect timing. The most powerful weapon against the fear of the unknown future is the unwavering evidence of God's known past. He is still the God of Ebenezer. He is still your helper. Trust isn't just hoping He will show up. It is knowing, based on history, that He always does. You check the mailbox again. Empty. You glance at the clock. Still waiting. That prayer, whispered into the night, feels distant now, perhaps even naive. Doubt taps at the edges of your hope, a low hum asking, did He really say that? Or did you just imagine it? The silence stretches, long and heavy, suggesting God might have forgotten, or worse, changed His divine mind. But He is not like us, not human, capable of uttering empty words or shifting on a whim. The ancient truth stands unshaken. God is not a man that He should lie, or a son of man that He should change His mind. Has He spoken, and will He not do it? Has He promised, and will He not fulfill it? Numbers 23:19. His character is the bedrock beneath the churning sea of uncertainty. And in Christ Jesus, every single promise He has ever breathed is a resounding yes and a settled amen. 2 Corinthians 1:20. It's not a hesitant maybe, not a potential possibility, pending your perfect performance or favorable conditions. It is sealed, secured, guaranteed in the One who is the faithful witness, the beginning and the end. Yet the space between the promise given and the promise seen can feel like an endless wilderness. Remember the builder. He begins with a grand blueprint, a vision of the finished structure. The promise is the blueprint. But a magnificent building doesn't simply appear. There is digging, laying foundations unseen beneath the soil, raising frames in the wind, installing pipes and wires hidden behind walls. It takes time. It requires layers. It demands patient, often hidden work. The waiting isn't a sign the builder has abandoned the project. It's an indispensable part of the construction process itself. Your hope is not meant to be anchored to the scaffolding you see today, or the dust of the construction site. It is anchored to the unwavering reliability of the master builder and the eternal certainty of His blueprint, His word. Stop fixing your gaze solely on the appearance of the promise, or the lack thereof in this moment. Look instead at the promise giver. His character, unchanging through all seasons, is the true guarantee. Lean into the quiet strength that comes from knowing he cannot fail. Trust the unseen layers being built. His word is not just information, it is the very power that upholds all things. It is your solid ground in the shifting sands of circumstance. The paradox. Sometimes the greatest movement forward happens when you are called to simply stand still in faith, trusting the hidden work of the one who keeps his word. You've done everything you know to do, prayed until your knees ached, fasted until hunger was a constant companion, sought counsel, read the promises. Still, the answer feels distant, the situation unchanged. The silence isn't empty, it's filled with the echo of your own questions. How long? When? Will it ever change? Anxiety curls in the pit of your stomach, a familiar shadow threatening to eclipse the light of hope. You watch others receiving their breakthroughs, their prayers answered, and a quiet ache settles in. Why not me? The waiting isn't just hard. It feels like a desolate wilderness you weren't prepared to cross. You crave peace, but it seems contingent upon the external shifting, the circumstances aligning, the problem dissolving. But what if the peace isn't after the answer? What if the deepest, truest peace is found within the waiting itself? Jesus stood in the boat, the waves crashing, the disciples terrified, convinced they were perishing. Matthew 8:23-27. He wasn't disturbed by the storm. His peace wasn't dependent on the water calming. He simply was peace in the midst of the chaos. He is the Prince of Peace. And that peace isn't a fragile calm contingent on favorable winds, but a deep well springing up from the bedrock of his presence, available even when the horizon is obscured by clouds of uncertainty and delayed timelines stretch out like an endless road. This peace doesn't arrive because you've wrestled the situation into submission. It comes through surrender, a gentle opening of your hands, releasing the tight grip you've held on control. It's resting, not striving. Resting in the knowledge that you are not adrift in a rudderless boat, but held securely in the arms of a God who loves you unconditionally, relentlessly. A God who is not indifferent to your pain or delay, but is actively, sovereignly working all things, yes, even this waiting, even this uncertainty, for your ultimate good and His glory. Romans 8:28. The profound, liberating insight is this: true peace is not the absence of trouble, the silence of the storm, but the quiet, unwavering presence of God walking with you directly through it. He doesn't take you out of the valley. He meets you there. He doesn't calm every wave instantly. He stands with you in the boat. Breathe deeply, right here, right now, amidst the unanswered questions, amidst the swirling anxiety. Invite His peace, not by demanding the answer, but by yielding to His presence, His gentle, powerful, perfect presence that makes the wilderness bloom and the storm a place where you encounter Him. This is the peace that surpasses understanding. A peace that blooms where fear once grew. Welcome to today's devotional message brought to you by Trusting God Always. You prayed, you fasted, you waited, and still, silence. The air feels thick with unanswered questions, the kind that settle deep in your bones and make you wonder if your voice even carries past the ceiling. You scroll through perfect lives online, measure your stagnant reality against manufactured highlights, and the whispers of doubt grow louder. Is God hearing? Does He care about this specific ache, this specific dream deferred? You've poured out your heart, laid bare your vulnerability, offered up your mustard seed of faith, and yet the mountain before you hasn't budged. The wilderness feels vast and stretching, and the promised land seems less like a destination and more like a cruel mirage. You feel the cold grip of anxiety tighten around your chest, the dull ache of loss resonating in the quiet moments, the sting of rejection from paths you thought were surely meant for you. Doubt, like a persistent shadow, follows you, whispering that perhaps you misunderstood, perhaps you weren't worthy, perhaps faith itself is a fragile thing, easily broken by the weight of reality. But what if this message isn't just a message? What if it's that quiet whisper you've been straining to hear, the gentle nudge you needed in the waiting? What if the silence you perceive is actually the fertile ground where something new is taking root? Unseen and protected beneath the surface, God doesn't always answer with a booming voice or a sudden dramatic shift. Sometimes His answer is a subtle shift in your perspective, a newfound peace that settles over your troubled spirit like a gentle dew. Sometimes He doesn't remove the storm, but stands with you in it, His presence a quiet assurance that stills the deepest fears. This journey of faith isn't about having all the answers laid out before you like a perfectly mapped road. It's about learning to walk, step by often uncertain step, hand in hand with the one who knows the destination and the best way to get there. It's about trusting that even when the path is shrouded in mist, the light is still leading. It's about understanding that sometimes the greatest strength is found not in striving, but in surrendering. Surrendering your timeline, your expectations, your need to control, and simply resting in the knowledge that God is God and you are His. He is not asking for your perfect performance, your unwavering certainty, or your ability to see the end from the beginning. He is simply asking for your hand, your yielded will, your willingness to trust that He is good, even when life is hard. If these words resonate with you right where you are, if they feel like that gentle tap on the window, inviting you into a moment of stillness and reflection, please consider liking this video, sharing it with someone who might need this message, and subscribing to our channel. Your engagement helps us reach more souls who are navigating their own wilderness seasons and need the comfort and assurance of God's unfailing love and perfect plan. We believe these messages can be beacons of hope for those who are struggling to trust, a reminder that they are not alone and that God is always working, even when it feels like nothing is happening. We'd also love to hear from you. Comment below with your favorite Bible promise, the one that anchors you in the storm, or perhaps the one you are still holding on to in the midst of your waiting season. Sharing your heart not only encourages others, but also strengthens your own faith as you declare His truth. Let's begin, and let His word breathe new life into yours. She stands on the precipice of another day, the weight of the waiting pressing down. Months, perhaps years, have blurred into a single, drawn-out season of anticipation. A job that hasn't materialized, a relationship that remains undefined, healing that feels perpetually just out of reach, a dream tucked away in the quiet corners of the heart, gathering dust. You look back over the calendar, marking the days that have passed, and a sigh escapes your lips. You feel like a ship becalmed, sails slack against the mast, drifting listlessly on an endless sea. What is the purpose of this pause? this stagnation. It feels less like preparation and more like punishment, less like growth and more like gradual fading. The fear that time is slipping away, that others are leaving you behind, that your potential is lying dormant. These are the quiet anxieties that claw at the edges of your peace. You feel unproductive, unseen, perhaps even forgotten by the one you are waiting on. But lift your gaze, even just slightly. Look back, not just at the days of this wait, but at the tapestry of your life. And perhaps, if you squint through the mist of your present circumstances, you can begin to see glimmers of the why in seasons past. That difficult job that taught you resilience you didn't know you possessed. That unexpected detour that led you to a connection you desperately needed. That period of forced stillness that allowed you to finally hear the quiet promptings of your own soul. Or the gentle whisper of God you'd been too busy to notice. Think of the Israelites. 40 years in the wilderness. 40 years of waiting for a promise they knew was real. A land described in vibrant detail. 40 years surrounded by sand, hunger, and the daily struggle for survival. To them, in the midst of it, it must have felt like a pointless, agonizing delay. They complained. They doubted. They longed for the familiar, even if it was slavery. They couldn't see the purpose being woven into the fabric of their journey. They couldn't see how the wilderness stripped away the slave mentality they carried out of Egypt, teaching them dependence solely on God for their daily bread and water. They couldn't see how the wanderings forged a new identity, uniting disparate tribes into a nation under God's direct leadership. They couldn't see how the trials were building their faith muscles, preparing them for the battles they would face to possess the land. The waiting didn't hinder God's promise. It was the process of preparation for it. In the midst of your waiting, the purpose can feel utterly hidden. It's like looking at the underside of an intricate tapestry. All you see are tangled threads, knots, and seemingly random colors. There's no discernible pattern, no beauty, just mess. It's easy to conclude that the whole thing is a mistake, a tangled waste. But God is the master weaver. He is working from the other side, the side you cannot yet see. He is weaving a design of breathtaking beauty, and the threads of your waiting season, no matter how messy they appear from your perspective, are absolutely essential to His beautiful design. Your waiting season has a divine purpose, even if you cannot articulate it now, even if it makes no logical sense in the rush of the world. It is not a void, but a crucible. It is shaping you, refining you like gold in the fire, burning away impurities like impatience, self-reliance, and the need for instant gratification. It is preparing you, equipping you with resilience, deeper faith, and a profound reliance on God that you could never have gained on the fast track. And crucially, it is positioning you, aligning circumstances, opening doors you didn't even know existed, and ensuring that when the time is right, you are exactly where you need to be, with exactly what you need, to step into the next chapter God has for you. The paradox is gentle but profound. Sometimes the greatest progress is made while you are standing still. Sometimes the deepest lessons are learned in the silence. Sometimes the strength you need for the mountain is forged in the valley of the wait. You don't have to understand the entire pattern to trust the weaver. You don't need a full map to follow the guide. Consider this a quiet call to reflection. Can you allow yourself to trust that when the time is right, His perfect timing, which is always worth the wait, the purpose of this wait will unfold before your eyes? It may not be in a sudden dramatic revelation, but in the slow dawning of understanding, like the sunrise after a long night. It will reveal God's perfect timing, His intricate plan, and His unwavering faithfulness throughout the process. The journey through the wilderness wasn't the end for the Israelites. It was the essential passage to the Promised Land. Your waiting season isn't the end of your story. It's a crucial chapter in God's unfolding narrative for your life, shaping you for the purpose that lies just around the bend. The sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows that deepen the quiet of the room. You sit, not with all the answers suddenly illuminated, but perhaps with a flicker of renewed hope, a softened resistance to the waiting. The frantic energy of striving begins to dissipate, replaced by a gentle, unfamiliar peace. This journey of trusting God always isn't about having perfect clarity in every moment, but about cultivating a quiet confidence in the One who holds every moment. It's about understanding that God's love isn't transactional, earned by your hustle or your perfect faith. His love is the ocean you swim in, the air you breathe, constant, unconditional, freely given. It is the foundation upon which all His promises are built. Whether you are in a season of abundance or in the deepest valley, His love is unchanging, a timeless truth that remains when all else shifts and sways. To walk in trust, not sight, is to deliberately choose to believe what God says over what your circumstances scream. It's choosing the quiet assurance of His word over the loud anxieties of your fears. It's trading the frantic need to see the whole picture for the simple faith to take the next step He illuminates. It means trusting the promise even when it seems impossible, trusting the path even when it's unclear, trusting the silence even when you crave a shout. It is a courageous act of surrender, relinquishing control to the One whose control is perfect love. God has a profound way of turning our hidden, painful seasons into the most holy stories. The wilderness becomes the backdrop for miracles. The dry places become wells of unexpected sustenance. The long nights of waiting birth the most beautiful dawns of purpose. The threads that look so tangled from below are revealed to be part of a magnificent design when seen from God's perspective. Your story, in all its seasons of light and shadow, waiting and unfolding, is being woven into a testament of His faithfulness. They didn't see the end, the fullness of the promise, the complete tapestry, while they were in the thick of it. But they trusted the author of their story, the weaver of their lives, and that was enough. You have waited. You have questioned. You have wrestled in the quiet hours, your soul a battlefield of hope and doubt. The calendar pages turned, seasons shifted, and still the longed-for answer remained just beyond the horizon of your sight. Perhaps in the face of this enduring silence, a new kind of peace begins to settle in your soul. It's not the peace of having the answer, but the peace of profound, weary surrender. The silence you once feared as an empty void, a sign of God's absence or indifference, starts to feel less like a wilderness and more like holy ground. It's the quiet anticipation before the first hint of dawn, when the deepest dark holds the promise of coming light. God's timing is not merely good, it is perfect. This isn't just a comforting platitude, it is a foundational truth woven into the very fabric of creation, into the rhythm of seasons, into the long, unfolding narrative of redemption. He is not bound by our clocks, our urgency, or our limited perspective. He knows the end from the beginning, seeing the full tapestry of your life, the lives intertwined with yours, and the countless variables you cannot fathom. He is never late. He is always, infallibly, precisely on time, working according to a divine schedule that is infinitely wiser, more intricate, and more profoundly loving than anything you could possibly conceive. Resting in His timing is not passive resignation to fate. It is active trust, a courageous and deep surrender of your anxious striving, your desperate grasping, and your weary control into the strong, capable, and nail-scarred hands of the Father. It is the quiet act of saying, "Not my will, but yours," not just in words, but with the posture of your soul. Even when the answer hasn't manifested in the way you envisioned, or at the speed your aching heart desired, remember this truth that anchors the cosmos. You are not forgotten. You are not a forgotten prayer tossed into the cosmic winds. You are not alone in this waiting. The God who promised, the one who spoke stars into existence and parted seas, is utterly faithful. He is with you in the waiting, closer than your own breath. He is working in the unseen, beneath the surface, where no eye can follow but His. He is building the roots deep down, strengthening the foundation of your faith, preparing you for what is to come in ways you cannot yet comprehend. He is refining the gold within you, burning away the impurities of impatience and self-reliance, shaping you into the image of His Son. He is orchestrating details you cannot possibly fathom, aligning circumstances and hearts across time and space. And in His perfect, radiant time, the promise He has spoken over your life, the seed He has planted in the ground of your faith, will bloom. Until that moment arrives, find your rest not in the arrival of the answer, not in the manifestation of the miracle, but in the unwavering, constant, intimate presence of the one who holds your life, your future, and every single moment of your wait in His loving, sovereign hands. The silence you hear. Sometimes, it's God speaking in a language too profound for words, a language understood by the soul that stills itself to listen. Even in the deepest silence, His presence sings over you a lullaby of love and assurance. You are held. You are cherished. You are never outside the circle of His perfect will and tender care. To walk by trust, not sight, is to believe in the sunrise, even in the deepest night. It is to know the harvest is coming, even when the seed lies hidden and cold in the earth. It is to find peace not in the destination, but in the journey with the God who is both the way and the end. He turns these hidden seasons of waiting, questioning, and quiet surrender into the most profound, soul-shaping, holy stories. They didn't see the end, but they trusted the author. And that was enough.